My very own constellation. A teenage with the baby inside, getting high on information. And buy me a spot to live on this kind of fornication.
Ali, can you hear me?
Oh, he's muted.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's good then.
Well, I think the first thing, maybe you share the slides.
Oh yeah, sure. I can go ahead and do that.
Is it coming from that or like the room speakers?
From mine.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, so I'll
Can you see the slides?
Can you say something?
oh,
Yeah, can you hear me? Are the slides up? I wasn't sure.
yeah, okay, that's good. Oh, can you mute like yeah.
Okay, yeah. So uh, I'll go ahead and start. So welcome to the workshop. So this workshop is gonna should I go ahead? I just can't hear you guys. It's a little hard to know who's speaking.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think you're good to start.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure on that. Okay, so today's workshop is going to be about how to win your next hackathon. It's going to be an intro to APIs and AI wrappers. And I say how to win your next hackathon because next week is shell hacks for anyone going. Hopefully, you'll be able to apply the things that you learned to there. Um, for anyone that hasn't signed in yet, please, go ahead and scan the QR code and just so you can get attendance for today's thing. And I'll leave it up for a couple of seconds and then I'll move on to the next slide. So start off, what is an API? An API, or application programming interface, is a set of rules and protocols that allows different software applications to communicate with each other. So, okay, that's kind of a long technical definition. So just to make it a little simpler, an API, it's a set of methods that allows different applications to communicate with each other. So to put a metaphor to it, you can think of it as a menu in a restaurant. You don't need to know how the kitchen works. You just need to know what you can order to get what you want. So for example, if I go to Chick-fil-A, I'm the user in this case, or an application. I can read the menu and pick out something from the menu screen. So everything from the menu screen to the server to the kitchen is the API. That's kind of the logic of the API that someone else defines. So when I order something from the menu, it goes through their system. The kitchen makes, something, whatever I order, and then I just get my food. So it's really easy. For me, I don't have to know how the kitchen is doing anything. I don't have to know how the program works. All I need to know is how to interact with the API. So for this metaphor, that'll just be using the menu. Then the API takes care of the logic and the actual execution of the code to do what I want it to do and deliver a response so that I can use in my app. APIs are fundamental to modern software and the internet, and they enable things like your phone's weather app, getting data from a weather service, or a login with Google button on a website. So, for example, a weather app, that's kind of, I think we're using that later in today's coding demo. If you've ever been, I think we've probably all been there where we're at a party and we like check the weather app and pretend that we're getting texts. So when you're checking the weather app, for me, for example, I open it up, and if I want to check the weather in Gainesville, I just type in Gainesville and I press, thing to search. And then behind the scenes, Apple or whoever designed the API or the app, they do all the logic of fetching the data. That's like getting the temperature, the units of the temperature, the raininess, packaging it together, and then giving it back to me in a way that I can use. So again, it takes care of the difficult behind the scenes to let me just use their software in a simple way. Another example is if you've taken Programming Fundamentals 1 or Programming Fundamentals 2, then you've probably written a class yourself. So each class can have its own methods or functions that you can call outside of the class. So whenever you're calling a class method, you're essentially interacting with an API that you defined. So API is kind of this general term that can be used to that can be applied to a lot of things. Another example would be like a code library. So for example, the math library in Python. If you want a random number, you can just call math.rand, and you don't have to know, like, do you care about how the random number is calculated or how it's seeded? Not really. It's not really important to you. All you need is just a random number. So the math.rand function can be considered an API. The math library is the API, and it just gives you what you need, and it gives you a way to interact with the code that whoever wrote the math library originally, the code that they defined. So there's lots of APIs, but today we're going to be focusing on a subset of APIs known as web APIs, and specifically we're going to be talking about FastAPI. So FastAPI is a high-performance Python web framework or library for building web APIs. Okay, so let's break that definition down into maybe something shorter again. So FastAPI is a Python framework for building web APIs. So what is a web API? Like I said, an API gives you a way to interact with some code. It kind of abstracts away the complexity. So in a web API, it's just an API that lives on the internet that you can access via something like an HTTP request. So one of the key selling points of FastAPI is obviously that it's fast. So I think, Zane, if you can explain maybe why it's so fast and how it helps with that.
Yeah, so FastAPI can use both synchronous and asynchronous. And basically what asynchronous does is like when you have like a wait time. Okay. Basically, when you're calling like an API and it kind of stops and it has to load, or like calling a database query, we're just waiting there for the program to finish. But what asynchronous does, it actually can do other things while it's waiting. So it maximizes this CPU, whereas synchronous coding just waits until the actual output is done so that you can move on. So that's why it's so fast compared to other technologies.
Should be doing the slideshow.
Hmm?
Should be showing the slide.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's really fast. Like for example, some other frameworks that
Yeah.
aren't asynchronous include like Flask or Django. And they're popular, but there's that trade-off where they have their own pros, but they're not quite as fast
Wait,
as
Ali, were you done or?
um what do you mean? Can you hear me?
Okay. So that's about it. Now we're gonna move on to the demo. And today's demo is going to be a weather app, and we're going to use a function calling from Gemini and using the API key from OpenWeather. So I'll share the GitHub repository in Discord. If you could go there. Okay, if you go to meeting resources, you should find the GitHub for today's workshop. And all right. So this is how it looks. And so to set it up first, you're going to clone this. So you're just going to go to your IDE and like VS Code and just copy, paste, and then go to that folder. And then you're going to go to the directory sec FastAPI workshop. And you can find everything that you need under the setup in the GitHub repository. And then you just move to directory cd weather AI. Next, we're going to create a virtual environment. And you should just type in this Python -m ven. And then either on if you're on Mac, you're going to type in source bin activate, or Windows, you're going to type in ven script activate. And then you're going to install you can use either the requirements. You should see a file that's requirements, or you can just use pip install, and you install all the imports from the virtual environment. So if I go to the virtual environment, and you're in the virtual environment when you see the event in front of your path. So once you install all those, should have the simple setup in your main, and then you can type in UVcorn main app reload. This will start the program because FastAPI uses dependencies like UVcorn to start the app. And then you can just go here and you can see Hello World, which is basically what we programmed in as our return. Is anyone having issues with that? Sorry?
Zane, can you hear me?
Install what?
Python on my computer.
Oh yeah. You do need to install Python?
Yeah, I thought I had.
Okay. Yeah. And make sure it's a higher version. And so once you're set up, you're going to go to Gemini API Studio. Basically, this is usually used for testing APIs. You can use API keys for free. And then you should sign up or log in. And in the dashboard, you go to API keys. And then you go to what? I don't know. I can't see it. Oh, you can. Great. Is it good enough? Okay. And so once you're in the Google AI Studio, you go to create API key. And then you should see create new project and then create API key. And you're just gonna copy and paste that into the environmental folder, which is where you keep usually your secret like keys or anything that's you don't want other people to share. So you're gonna put it there and you're just gonna paste after the equal symbol Gemini API. And yeah, so API keys always come API. They usually show documents of like how to use it. So if you have issues, you can always refer to the document of Gemini. And also, this is for testing. So usually the Google AI Studio is usually for testing. And if you actually want to like develop and like use more of like just the free version, because free version is always limited. Uh, it depends which version you're using, but usually the base one's like 15 requests per minute. Per minute, and like 1,500 a day. And there's a certain cap on month. So it definitely is like limited. So if you want to use like the full out version, you go to Google Cloud and you go to console and you sign up, log in, whatever. And here you'd click this on the top left corner, and then you would create a new project. And then you create a project. After you create it, you can add billing because after the cap, the free cap, it would go to billing. But that's if you want to like actually use it a lot. And then you would create this API key again. And you would select the project. So like I did the Seek Fast API project. But that's only if you want to go above and beyond. For today's demo, you only need like the AI Studio limited free version. So next we're gonna go to the open weather. If you go to open weather, I would sign up, log in, whatever. And then this one, it kind of shows it. So you'd go to API key, you'd create your API, same thing. And then you just paste it into environment folder, weather API key. And again, there's documents here that show how to use them. And we're actually going to use like one of the links that they provide here to actually call upon the API key. So after you have all that, you should be set for the project. Okay, so now we should go to the VS Studio. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about how to get an API key? Yeah. So could you speak louder? All right. So if to clone the repository, are you on the GitHub right now? Okay. So you're just gonna copy this, go to your IDE like VS Code, and then you just paste this, and then you press enter. And then this should create a folder inside, and then like inside your path, whatever, and then you should find it. So like for me, it would be in Finder, and I would find my project, and I would double click it, whatever. Sorry? The virtual environment. So to go to the virtual environment, you go back here. You want to be in this directory, the sec fast API workshop, and then under also the directory of weather API. And then yeah.
pip install dash requirements.txt. I ran that and it said that could not open requirements file, no such file in the directory.
That's probably because your requirements file is not under the weather AI directory. So you could just you see how I can just grab this file and move it? I could just grab it and put it under this weather AI directory, and then it should be in there. Because I'm assuming your path is weather AI. All right. Any more questions? Oh yeah. Yeah. So are you under the weather AI path? Oh yeah. And you typed in Python the ven. So you typed in exactly this. And you typed this in your terminal. So under basically, yeah, it should create after you're under this, you type in Python ven, and it should create a folder, a virtual environment ven. It's not doing. Um, any more questions?
Project for the Gemini API key?
No, you don't have to because oh yeah, create new project. If you're in the AI Studio, you just click that and then create. Yeah, it's free. The AI Studio is for free because you didn't add a credit card or anything. They can't charge it. So okay. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the project. Okay, so we're gonna move this real quick.
And step 4 where it says create an ENV file. What English is that?
The what?
Step 4, it says created.env file in the project with an admin key.
Yeah, the env file should already be in your setup because I imported it. So
Yeah.
if you cloned it, usually you should have an env file. Yeah. Okay. Huh?
Have the chat open just in case.
Oh yeah. Which API am I getting from open whatever? You should just get there shouldn't be a selection. Usually when you're on the open weather app, you just create an API and you kind of distinguish which one you want to use inside your program. Like an API key, you just get the API key, and then you in your program you call upon which one you want to actually use. So it should only be one of them.
What about adding your keys to the Gemini to the ENV file?
Yeah, okay, so like if I went to Google AI Studio, whatever, and then I go to API key, are you there?
Yeah. Hold on.
Create API key, and then you should get
Wait, to create API key.
yeah, create this, click create. And then it should show create new project or select a project if you've already had a project. And then you click create and you should copy and paste the API key it gives you to the environmental folder. Do you need help still or not? Okay. I'll try to move on. Okay. So now that we're set up, we're gonna type in load.env. This is basically gonna load the the file because we hid the API keys inside the environmental file. And then we're going to do app equals FastAPI to create an instance of this FastAPI. And then we're going to do Gemini API key. We're going to store the actual API key inside here. So OS is just a module to retrieve, and then get env, so retrieve the environment. Yes, sir. So for the other one, just click on this link and then sign up. And then you should have like your name here, whatever. And then you click API, my API keys, and then you should do it should say create API key, and you type in your name, create it, and then it should show. Okay, so after you do this, you do Gemini, you can copy and paste this. So we're loading the Gemini API keys into this name. And then same thing for weather. You could just copy this. Weather. Okay. And we're going to make sure it's actually there. So if not weather or not Gemini API key, we're going to raise a value error because something, we're just going to put API key not found to make sure we address the problem if there was no API key. Then we're going to make a function for a function call for Gemini. We're going to call it request weather. And we're going to get the city. And we want it as a string. And then we also want the date and also a string. And the date, we're going to put as none because we're flexible. And if there's no date, we can just approximate like the most recent day you've given us or whatever. So you're flexible on that, but city is definitely required. And then we're going to do this arrow dictionary because we want an output of a dictionary of value and key, a key and value. And here we're going to do format equals city dot replace this and comma. So this is basically going to help make it easier to read by removing the spaces and putting commas inside there. And then URL F. And this is the URL the weather app gave us. And you could just use the one from our GitHub. If you go to the complete version, which has like the full code, if you just want to copy and paste and move on, you can use that. And then you should see a URL, this. The VS Code. Okay, and once you type that in, oh, this is the URL to get the information from. Okay, so it says formatted city. That's basically the variable I defined here on how it's formatted. And then here we're gonna put response equals request get URL. So we want to request information to get this from the URL. And then we're gonna do response raise view status. So basically, we want to make sure it's successful, that we got a response and that it was successful. Then we're going to do formatted data. And we're going to do response.json. Basically, we want the JSON to be converted into a dictionary of Python eventually. And okay, so now that it's, oh, okay, I forgot something. So we want to try to do this because it could be unsuccessful. So the best way to make sure it's correct is to try an accept block. So we're going to try to do it. But if it fails, we're going to put an accept and request the exception dot request exception as E. So we're going to store the prom as E, the variable. And then we're going to put if response dot status code equals 404. So we're going to use several codes today, and 404 basically means that it's not found. Anything 400 is usually like a client request that was bad, and 200 means successful, and 500 is usually a server error. So 404 means it was not found. We can put return error. And then we can put city, no, we could put F city to make sure the variable is there. Was not found. And if the city was not found, that means it was a problem with the open weather app, open weather connection. So we're just going to return error, and we're going to put failed to connect open weather. Open weather. So now that we handled those, now we're going to do if, because open weather will return a list as a key. So if list not in formatted in this, so if it was in our JSON or not copy this or not list, or if the key was basically empty, we're going to return an error and return error. And we're going to put unavailable at this location. Okay, so now that we address a couple of these problems, now we're going to do formatted line, and we're just going to use, basically we're going to get the data from the formatted data list. And yeah, so now we're going to do return, actually wait, no, if dates. So we want to approximate the shortest date from the open weather to the actual one we put in. So if date, and we're going to try that. So we're going to do target equals date time, which is the import that we got, and then format. Oh. Yeah, so if you can't get follow up on, you go to the repository, and then there should be a branch called complete, and this has like the complete code. If you click on weather and then main.py, you should have the whole code of this workshop, and you can test it eventually. Okay, so that and date. So this is gonna structure our date to be better written, and then we can do the closest. So we want to find the minimum, so minimum difference, and then formatted line, and then key equals lambda. So we're going to use a function, an external function. Then you can put date time. Actually, it's going to be this. Date time. Then F. Then T. This is going to be our forecast, and we want to get that minus target to get the closest time. And then we're going to do an exception. So if there was a problem, that we just use the closest one, basically the earliest version that we have. So formatted line is 0. And then if there is no dates else, we also use the most recent one. Okay, so now that we have that, we're gonna do return, and then we're gonna do temp. We're gonna assign a variable temp, and then the closest to that, we put main. So main basically is gonna be the temperature that we get, and then a temp, which will be the actual sign like Fahrenheit or Celsius. Then desk will be the description basically. Closest equals weather, so the actual weather. And then we want the first one that pops up, so 0. And then we want description of it. Next, we want city. And want the city. And then we want formatted. And then you could put formatted date. And then you could put closest. Then you put this, paste that in there. So we want the forecast in there. All right. So once you got that, now we're going to define our tool that Gemini is going to use. And you can just save it. So you could just go to complete, honestly, because it is already sometime. And grab this tool. Okay, so what this tool is saying basically is name is going to be the function. Okay, so I put this as the name of the function. So we can go back and just change that name of the function. So name of the function, description, the get the weather, basically what we're doing. Parameter, type object, we want a JSON object. The city, we want a string. And then we also want string for dates. And obviously it is required that we have a city. We don't need a date because we could use the closest one. So we can also save that. Then now we're going to do app dot get. So we're going to define this route weather. And then we're going to make a function get weather. And we want to query that, and we want a string. Okay, and now we're going to do try. And then we're going to do a client. Basically, we want this client to be connected to the AI, the Gemini API. So we're going to do client, boom, and then API key, API key name or something. Key name equals Gemini. Oh, not that. Gemini API. So we're going to connect this client to this Gemini API. And we also want the tool. And types equal tool. Then it should be what is it? Let me see what I use. Function declaration. Function declaration. And then we want to use the tool that we just created above. Okay. So after this, let me see real quick. Does anyone have any questions about what we've done so far? So now we're going to do.
Do you use FastAPI outside of the context of a hackathon, or do you use like a?
Yeah, so I mean, you can use anything. FastAPI is just a framework that's good for backend and Python. I mean, it's fast and it has its own web interface, so it makes it pretty good. But you can use anything. Like if you prefer Java, you can use Spring Boot or whatever. It doesn't have to be FastAPI. We're gonna do config equals config. Actually, we're gonna do tools dot generate config. Then we're gonna do. Then here we're gonna do. We're gonna set config to. Let me see actually. Yeah, tools and then function call. Tools. And then this you can just name whatever you want. And then you're gonna put this as function calling config. And we're also gonna put So basically we're gonna call upon this set of tools that we used, and this is gonna allow to function call for basically Gemini to use any sort of function it wants, even though we're kind of restrictive on one right here. But we're letting it the freedom of using any function it wants. And then we're gonna do a response equals, then we're gonna do client models. Sure. Okay, it is 60. I'll just use the rest of this for now. I'll explain a bit. I'll do this for now. All right. So response, so we're going to use a 2.5 Gemini model. Basically, you can see in documentation, function calling, you can only use like free version Gemini, I believe it's like 2.0 Pro, 2.0 Flash, and 2.5 Flash. So we're going to use the 2.5 Flash. The content, we're going to query that, so retrieve that, and the config, the ones that we just set above. And so what this is saying, basically the response, we're going to use the first candidate that he gets, and usually it's separated in several parts, so we want the first one, and we're going to call upon that function. And if this variable is not in there, or the name is not the function that we created, we're going to return an error. And then args equals fc.args. Then city equals and okay, it is 18. So let me just real quick just explain how this code is going to work out basically. Real quick, what is so we're going to retrieve the city with the arguments that the function is calling from Gemini. And then if there was not a city, we're going to raise error 400, meaning it was a bad request. And then result, basically we're going to call upon the function with the city that we got and the date that we acquired. If there was an error with the result, we're going to raise a 500 error, basically meaning a server error. And then we're going to do a prompt to. Basically, this is just going to be how we're going to set up the answer for Gemini to respond with, like the weather and blah, blah, blah. And then the final response, we're going to use this Gemini model, and we're going to use the contents as the answer that we want it to be. And then we're going to return this result, and stripped is basically meaning without the spaces or anything that's bothering. And then we also want to return a raw result, basically to show also like other things that are worth mentioning. And if anything of that is having issues, we're going to return an error exception. Okay, there is an error. Let me see. Should be. What's this? I believe it's okay. And then you should be able, if I didn't make any mistakes, if you do UV main app reload. Okay. Already in use. Oh shoot. Okay, yeah, that's one. UV main app reload. Okay. And then if you go back, if you go to the link, go here. No operation specs. Well, that's different. There must be an error. Detail not found. Okay, there must be a problem. Okay. Normally, if you type in what is the weather in Gainesville right now, actual Gainesville, Florida right now. Never occurred. Okay, let me see. Key name API client.init. Okay. Sure. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, mm, mm. Okay, so I mean it is 22. I'll just use this code for now, but take what? It's weird. It's not. Should be. Mm, 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 mm. I'm not really seeing the error right now, but I'll just show you what the final product this should be. If you save this, it should be unicorn. Actually, yeah. Let me clear this. Reload. And then if you go this project, okay. And we're to say what is the weather in Gainesville, Florida right now. Okay, so it should give you a code 200 successful, meaning it was a success, and then result, basically how we formatted our answer. And if you look at the weather, it might be a little off because that's here we're looking at 8, the closest time it could give right now is 6 p.m. So the weather is a little off, but
At the prompt, how did you format it?
yeah, so the prompt,
But I'm getting a 500, error 500.
so this is how you format the prompt. You do the weather in, and then result, the result that we got from the city, and the result we got from the forecast time, because everything is a key value error, a key value. And if you just copy the one from the complete version of the repository, you should be able to get it. And here's the raw data that we got, and it shows.
So, I mean, I'm in the query, I'm asking it what the weather in game from Florida is right now, but it gives me a error 500.
So a server error. Um, not sure. But you have both keys in your environment folder.
Yeah.
And you all your imports were successfully downloaded. Does anyone have any questions about today's project or about FastAPI in general? I think that's about it. Thanks for coming, and yeah, I hope you learned something a little bit, and maybe you could try to actually use React from last week's workshop and try to integrate the FastAPI with the React, and that'd be a good challenge to do in your spare time. Thanks for coming. Uh,